Our gospel lesson this morning is from the 14th chapter of Luke, beginning at verse 25. You can find this reading in the New Testament portion of your Pew Bible on page 78. Now large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned and said to them, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost to see whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This fellow began to build and was not able to finish.' Or, what king, going out to wage war against another king, will not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If he cannot, then, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace. So, therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all your possessions." The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
The psalmist says it well. "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. In my beginning, you shaped me. Now you know when I sit and stand. You know my thoughts and my speech. Anywhere I go, you are there. At my beginning, you were there. At my end, you will be there." I think we like this. We like to think that we are shaped in God's image and that God keeps us close all our lives. At our end, we want to be with God. Throughout our lives, we make choices for ourselves and for our family based on the perception of what kind of influences will dominate in certain places. Now, in church, we would expect to be shaped and maybe reshaped by being close to God. But being formed and shaped by God, being close to God, does have its risks. In the lessons from Jeremiah and Luke, we see that there is shaping and reshaping going on, making our lives as disciples a bit challenging. The prophet Jeremiah experienced God's call in his life when he was young. And in response to excuses that Jeremiah put forth, God persisted, as God tends to do. And Jeremiah ended up working over 40 years as a spokesperson for God. Jeremiah was a prophet in Judah. The early years of that country had gone well. The people had been shaped by God's covenant love and faithfulness. Their leaders had been faithful to God. The priests and the prophets had resisted the temptation to seek help from the Egyptian and Canaanite gods. But times changed, and the people turned away from God. They became bent, out of shape, crooked in their unfaithfulness. Time after time, Jeremiah brought a word from the Lord, a word of opportunity, a word of encouragement, a word of invitation. Turn to me. Return to me. Once again, let me shape you in my image, God would say. In one of the most dramatic and clear presentations of this message, Jeremiah tells us of going to see a potter working with clay. This ancient image is remarkably contemporary, so it's easy to envision Jeremiah watching a potter work with clay while thinking about God's shaping and reshaping the people. Oops. There's a mess up. Something is askew, something crooked, a bad crack. So what is the potter to do? What will God do? Is God going to throw the clay away and get new clay, make a brand new form? Or might the clay just be left in its crooked shape? Or shall God rework the clay time after time after time until it is just right? Well, Jeremiah's analogy falters a little because in this story the clay has some say in the matter, unlike real clay. But we catch on, nevertheless, God is willing to rework the clay. And the clay needs to be willing. God's always reaching out to bring new life, and God wants us to respond. Now, there's a tension and decisions to be made between God's will and our free will. God wants to shape and reshape. What turn will the clay take? If we want to stay the same, we cannot get close to God. We can't hang around where God would have easy access to us like in church. If you don't want to be changed, if we don't want to be reshaped into God's image, don't come here. 7 centuries passed before Jesus, who could very well have used this same story, began to use words that paint a word picture, as Jesus' words often did. Journeying toward Jerusalem, he's speaking to big crowds of people. He says that following him and being close to God means that life will be different. You heard the verses from Luke, 3 descriptions of being shaped and reshaped. Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even life itself, cannot be my disciple. If we would be a disciple of Jesus, Jesus comes first, even before our most treasured human relationships. Then this, whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. If we would be a disciple of Jesus, following Jesus and carrying the responsibility of discipleship comes first. And finally, if you do not give up all of your possessions, none of you can become my disciple. If we would be disciples of Jesus, we have to be willing to lay aside earthly treasures. Jesus' teaching is pretty clear. Professing discipleship makes a difference in our lives. Transformation is at the heart of discipleship. If we don't want to be shaped into a different form, then we shouldn't be here. Because here, in church, is the possibility that we will get close enough to God to become different, to be shaped into a disciple. During an interim time, a church often looks at itself and asks about shape. What shape are we in? Spiritually, numerically, financially? How are we growing, changing? What is our mission to our neighborhood and our community? Now, this is a good thing to ask these questions, and it's one of the reasons why it's very important that you, that would be you be here on September 22nd for the congregational gathering that our mission study team is organizing. It is a time for reflecting on our shape and what shape we might pray to grow into. The Westminster Presbyterian Church is not in the same shape we were 12 years ago when you went through your last pastoral transition. You're different. You may evaluate these differences as bad or good, but you're not the same. As a congregation of Christ Church, it's a given that we will not be the same as we move into the future. God will shape us, change us, reshape us, form and reform. If you're in a personal time of transition, I suspect you will discover yourself asking many of the same questions, thinking about many of the same issues: shape, reshape. If we take the long view and imagine and recall the long history we read in the Bible and the long story of human history, we see that we always mess up. We're often out of shape, bent, crooked, spoiled. Adam and Eve are disobedient. Cain kills Abel. Jacob deceives his father Isaac. Joseph's brothers sell him into slavery. Judas Iscariot betrays Jesus to the Jewish authorities. Simon Peter denies that he even knows Jesus. There's fighting in Damascus in Syria, a city that has been in continuous existence for some 5,000 years. Horrible plagues and disease that continue to ravage human life. And from time to time, even God-fearing Christians kill others simply because they're not Christians. In every time and in every case, God can choose to throw it all away. Could be discarded, life ended. Or God could leave that bent form as it is, misshapen, malformed. But God does not. The clay is not discarded. It is reworked and reshaped as it seems good to God. For God, restoration is always the choice. Hope and redemption always have the final word. And herein is the good news for us as individuals and for us as a congregation. God wants to shape and reshape us. Would we be willing and wanting to be close to God, wanting to get close enough to God to be reformed, wanting to live as a disciple of Jesus, wanting to be formed as God chooses? Are we?